Hello friends, I welcome you all in this new edition of news coverage and analysis from the Hindu newspaper dated 20th February 2019. So what all are we going to cover is detailed here in this page. You can pause the video and note down if you wish. So let's start with the first article. And it says IAF plane shot down, pilot taken captive by Pak army. Well, in this particular article, the important point is that India had said or rather claimed that Pakistan will have to treat the captive as per the Geneva Convention Article 3. So this is the right time that we understand what is Geneva Convention. The Geneva Convention comprises of 4 treaties and 3 additional protocols that establish the standard of international law for humanitarian treatment in war. Moreover, the Geneva Convention also defines the right and protection afforded to non-combatant. Yet, because the Geneva Convention are about people in war, the article do not address warfare proper. The use of weapon of war, which is subject to the Hague Convention. First Hague Convention had come in 1899 and the second Hague Convention came in 1907. And the Biological Warfare Geneva Protocol for the prohibition of use in war of asphyxiating, poisonous or other gases and of bacteriological method of warfare 1925. Since India has been talking about Article 3 of Geneva Convention, let's try to understand what is this. Common Article 3 related to non-international armed conflict. This article states that the certain minimum rules of war apply to armed conflict, where at least one party is not a state. So, if India is claiming that one party is not state and that is Jaish-e-Mohammed and another party is India, so in that case the situation gets complicated because our wing commander is captured by Pakistan, which is also a state. So it is not captured by any non-state actor. Rather, if the situation had been other way around, that if India had captured one non-state actor, then India would have been, this Article 3 of Geneva Convention would have been a binding on India to give a fair treatment. Fair means the way it is defined or codified in Geneva Convention. However, here India has claimed that it is on armed conflict or in war with a non-state actor or the organization called Jaish-e-Mohammed, but the wing commander or the army personnel is captured by another state. So here is the complexity. Let's try to get further into the provisions of Article 3. The interpretation of the term armed conflict and therefore the applicability of this article is a matter of debate. For example, it would apply to conflict between government and the rebel forces, or between two rebel forces, or to other conflicts that have all the characteristic of war, whether carried out within the confines of one country or not. So this basically defines the spectrum of armed conflict. How exactly would it be done if it is between two parties, two non-state actors, two rebel forces, or other conflict? So there is 2 criteria to distinguish non-international armed conflict from lower form of violence. The level of violence has to be of certain intensity that is not defined here. For example, when the state cannot contain the situation with regular police forces. Also, involved non-state group need to have a certain level of organization like military command structure, and this is also a point which actually might create a problem for India, because Jaish-e-Mohammed, India would find it tough to claim or to prove that Jaish-e-Mohammed has a structured military command. So, and then our hostage is with Pakistan. So Pakistan would also try to say that it's basically a missionary kind of organization. If at all Pakistan accepts that something called Jaish-e-Mohammed exists. So here actually India would find it tough to prove that the hostage should be given treatment that is envisaged in Geneva Convention. So, but still, let's try to understand what are the other provisions. It says that the other Geneva Conventions are not applicable in this situation, but only to the provisions contained within Article 3. Additionally, within the language of the Protocol 2. The rationale for the limitation is to avoid conflict with the right of sovereign state, and that's where this is also a point where Pakistan would say that this is not applicable. They were not part of the treaty. When the provisions of this article apply, it states that persons taking no active part in hostilities, that is the common people, including members of the armed forces who have laid down their arms, or those placed whose they combat by sickness, wound, detention, or any other cause, shall in all circumstances be treated humanely without any adverse distinction found on race, color, religion, or faith, sex, birth, or wealth, or any other similar criteria. This is what India would be pushing for. To this end, the following acts are and shall remain prohibited at any time and in any place whatsoever with respect to the above mentioned persons: violence to life and person, in particular murder of all kind, mutilation, cruel treatment and torture, taking of hostages, outrage upon dignity, in particular humiliating and degrading treatment, and passing of sentences and carrying out of execution without previous judgment pronounced by the regular constituted court, affording all the judicial guarantee which are recognized as indispensable by civilian. So probably Pakistan would go for this particular method if the peace talk fails, the way India had done when it had captured attacker in Mumbai case, that 26/11 Mumbai case. The wounded and sick shall not shall be collected and cared for. That's what India has always been doing anyway. The next news is Andhra Pradesh gets new South Coast Railway Zone. The new zone, South Coast Railway, would be called as SCOR, would comprise the existing Guntakal, Guntur and Vijayawada divisions. These three divisions are part of South Central Railway, which has got 6 divisions. The remaining 3 are Nanded, Hyderabad and Sikandrabad. It has got its headquarters at Hyderabad. That you should remember, that South Central Railway has got 6 divisions. Out of those 6 divisions, 3 divisions would be carved out and new zone would be formed that would be called as South Coast Railway. Additionally, the Voltaire division of East Coast Railway would also be bifurcated. Voltaire division has got its headquarters at Visakhapatnam, and the new headquarters of newly formed South Coast Railway would have its headquarters at Visakhapatnam. One part of the Voltaire division will be incorporated in the new zone and will be merged with the neighboring Vijayawada division. So, part which would be carved out of Voltaire division would be merged with Vijayawada division, and the remaining part would have its new headquarters or the divisional headquarters at Raigada. That also you should remember. So, and this would be the part of existing East Coast Railway. Voltaire is the part of East Coast Railway, that is written here. So, how many zones are here in Indian Railways? Right now we have 16 zones. The right way to remember the zones and their headquarter name is to write like this: North, South, East, West. East we have got Calcutta, easier to remember. North, Delhi. South, Chennai. West, Mumbai. Now there is one more, that is Central. This is the oldest. Aberration here is that it has got its headquarters at Mumbai. So Western and Central has got its headquarters at Mumbai. Southeastern Railway, it is written here, Southeastern Railway is one of the oldest railway. I mean, comparable to Central Railway, has got its headquarters at Kolkata. So we have got Eastern and Southeastern at Kolkata. We have got Central somewhere, Western and Central has got its headquarters at Mumbai. Now I told you about sound. Now start making combination. North, West. It will be Northwestern. and it will have its headquarter. It has got its headquarter at Jaipur. Now northeast midpoint somewhere, headquarter northeast railway headquarter is at Gorakhpur. Then southeastern I have told you, southwestern, west south southwestern headquarter at Hubli, and then start making other combinations like north central. So north central, you take the central point as Nagpur. India's central point probably is around Nagpur. North central, take the midpoint, north central railway, NCR, it is called NCR, headquarter at Allahabad. Then east central, this is slightly different, east central railway headquarter at Hajipur. South central headquarter at Hyderabad, the way I told you. Southwestern headquarter at Hubli, that I had told you. So there are total 16 zones right now. One more zone is called Kolkata Metro, that is formed by Mamta Didi. So total 17 zone. Now Indian Railway will have 18 zone because of South Coast Railway. Now we move to the next article, that is 50 years after they developed Mrinal, the Indian Space Program's first composite solid propellant for launch vehicle. Surviving members of the propellant engineering division gathered in the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center on Wednesday to relive the memory. This is important point for you. The name was given. The get together was meant to mark the 50th anniversary of the successful flight test of the Mrinal. The propellant was named after Mrinalini Sarabhai, wife of Sri Vikram Sarabhai. That you should remember. The important point is Mrinal. Now we come to page 7. Modify forest dwellers eviction order. Center has requested Supreme Court. What center has said? This is quite an interesting. We have been talking about the order of eviction issued by Honorable Supreme Court, and we have covered couple of editorials also. Let's see what center has argued in Supreme Court. The center filed an application on Wednesday urging Supreme Court to modify its February 13th order directing the eviction of thousands of scheduled tribes and other traditional forest dwellers whose claim for forest land rights have been rejected under the Forest Right Act 2006. So what are the arguments? First, being poor and illiterate people who live in remote areas, they do not know the appropriate procedure for filing claims the government submitted. This is the first argument. This is what we have been talking about. Gram Sabhas, which initiate the verification of their claims, are low on awareness about how to deal with these claims. The rejection order are not even communicated to the forest dwelling STs and other communities. Well, there are 3 layers that you all remember. So basically these people don't know their rights. So if their rights have been rejected at the very first layer, who themselves are not very aware, that is Gram Sabhas, then basically this bulk of the people are left or there itself. Now center further says that center has written series of letters to states between 2014 and 15 which suggested improved methodologies. It was requested that technology such as the satellite imagery may be used for consideration of claims. The center had suggested to the state in one of its letters, but no effort seems to have been taken by the state government to remedy the situation. The effective implementation of 2006 Act, and that's what center has indicated. So center basically is saying the first thing is that there has been a mistake on the part of Gram Sabhas. Then these people, the forest dwellers, don't know these provisions, so they are left out. Now state were also not very keen and methodical in implementing these provisions, and that's where the problem happened. It is uncertain whether the data furnished by the state government accurately indicates whether the rejection orders were passed after the observance of due process of law. This is what center is also claiming. Compliance with the principle of natural justice, and whether appeal mechanism have been properly exhausted. How would they go for appeal if they don't know the rules? So if center is saying that we should see whether the due process of law was followed or not, or compliance to the principle of natural justice was followed or not, first thing first, that those people should be aware that something has happened to them. these people might not be aware that something has happened to them. So without such information and compliances with the mandate of law in letter and spirit, the eviction of such tribal would amount to serious miscarriage of justice. This is what center has requested. Let's see what Supreme Court decides on this, but quite a logical one from central government. So this is what, then this infographic details something more that you should know about, know for your prelims as well as for mains. According to the center's application before the Supreme Court, the scheme of Forest Right Act is in tune with the several international conventions. The first one is UN Universal Declaration on Human Rights. Recognizes the equal right of the human family. India is a signatory. UN Convention concerning indigenous and tribal population seeks to protect ownership rights of the population over lands they traditionally occupy. India ratified by that is ratified by India. Then UN Declaration on Right of Indigenous People mandates to protect the right of indigenous people to land, territories and resources which they traditionally own, occupy and use. India is again signatory to this. And then fourth one, UN Convention on Biological Diversity advocates the preservation of indigenous knowledge and practices. India is a party to it. And the fifth and the last one, Rio Declaration on Environment and Development proclaims indigenous people have a vital role in environmental management. So you should remember all this. This is important for your general studies for environment section. Now we come to the editorial. The first article is Think Like a Civilization. This is important because it actually advocates quite a sincere thing, quite a logical one, and it actually advocates that we should have a somber mood rather than we should not become a hooligan in the wake of the heightened tension between two countries after Pulwama attack. So what is the mood of the article? This essay is a piece of dissent at the time when dissent may not be welcome. You may be termed as anti-national. It's quite a right one. I feel a deep sense of unease, a feeling that India is celebrating a moment which needs to be located in a different context, and that is what the author says. So first it tries to say showcase the reality. So I've termed it reality showcase. Sadly, India as a country has not experienced war as a totality, unlike Europe or other countries in Asia such as Vietnam or Afghanistan, where actually it is quite a perfect thing to say. We have not seen war. Our previous generation has also not seen war. People who say that they have seen war, they actually have heard about war, be it 1960 or 60, 61 or 65 or 72. They have not because they didn't get hampered. They didn't witness or face the war. Vietnam and Afghanistan have faced, or maybe in World War II, Europe had faced. War has always been an activity at the border in India. It did not engulf our lives in the way World War II corroded Germany or even Russia. War went to, in fact, if you read articles or novels, you would realize, or text or history book, war were there on the streets of cities. So even commoners were very much affected. It had never happened to India. So that's why when we get sentimental, emotional and emotionally charged, we talk about war because we have not seen the devastation that can be caused by the war. War is a trauma. Few nibbles at in India. When our leaders talk even of a surgical strike, one is not quite sure whether they know the difference between Haldi Ghati or a modern war. They seem like actors enacting an outdated play. In fact, one wonders whether India as a society has thought through the idea of war. We talk of war as if it is a problem of traffic control. I mean, take it as so easy. Our strategist, our international relation expert, fetish security and patriotism. And that's their fetish. They don't know the reality. They don't understand what would be the consequences of war. The biggest casualty of such enthusiasm of war is democracy and rational thought. Our leaders know that minute we create a demonology around Pakistan, we cease to think rationally and creatively about our own behavior in Kashmir. That's a quite harsh word, but we must understand that we will be coming to this. Author has tried to substantiate this particular point. We can talk with ease about Pakistani belligerence, about militarism in Pakistan, but we refuse to reflect on our own brutality in Kashmir and Manipur, and we got to think about it. Should not India, as a creative democracy, ask why is there a state of internal war in Kashmir and in Northeast for decades? I mean, author has actually nailed it, because after reading this particular line, even 99% people would say that no, we don't have any problem. Actually, it's our internal problem. It's our internal war. Then the right question is, why has India not been able to solve this internal war? If it is internal war, why, first of all, why there is an internal war, and then why India has not been able to solve the problem? Why is it we do not have a moral leadership to challenge Pakistan to engage in peace? Why is it that we as a nation think we are democracy when internal war and majoritarian mob are eating into the core of our civilization? Right now, for past couple of years, we are witnessing that only majority dictates the term. Nobody has got the right to raise its voice or express their opinion. Then author puts some harsh reality. Even if we think strategically, we are losers. How? Sadly, the strategy shows that India is moving into a geopolitical trap where China, which treats Pakistan as a vassal state, is a prime beneficiary of Pulwama. The Chinese as a society and a regime would be content to see an authoritarian India militarized, and its greatest achievement, which is democracy. So China would not like democracy here. It would like that it gets militarized, because that's how they operate. So they would be the winner. Pakistan anyway doesn't have any independent existence. It is just like a vassal of China, and that we must understand. So the author says that when I wish to argue is that strategy also belongs to the perspective of peace, and it is precisely as a democracy and as a peace-loving nation that we should outthink and outflank China. So that's quite an interesting and important perspective that we all should think about. Now we move to the next article, quite an important one. It is related to Zika outbreak. We should not get complacent is what the author is saying. Let's see what his argument is. Since there is no outbreak of Zika this year, this is an excellent time to study Zika epidemiology in India. Public health officials must do this while disseminating data quickly and transparently so that it can be analyzed by the global scientific community. This is in India's best interest. We don't have any outbreak, so we can very well analyze the past data, and we can also do some survey, some research, because so that we could chalk out our plan, if at all, to prevent, first of all, to prevent future outbreak, and if at all something of that sort happen, then we should be well prepared with the master plan. Now, how to proceed? Authorities must leave no stone unturned in following up every pregnant woman who was diagnosed with Zika positive in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, because what Zika is infamous for, that it creates anomaly in the newborn or even though there is no evidence conclusively linking a particular viral strain or mutation with fetal anomaly, the Indian Council of Medical Research said the Rajasthan strain did not have S139N mutation linked to microcephaly, and this is the biggest problem, that actually is the fetal anomaly. So the author is saying that ICMR has prematurely concluded that S139N mutation is not linked with microcephaly. That's what author is going to contest now. So let's try to understand how he's saying. This is incorrect. Even though microcephaly was first observed as a consequence of Zika during 2015 Brazilian epidemic, strains other than the Brazilian strain, which do not have S139N mutation, have linked with the abnormality. So if you're saying that this was the first time it was found in Brazil, and that's why it is related to those strains of Brazil, so India does not have that link, then one must understand that other mutation also are linked with microcephaly. So we need to study. So he has given example also. For example, in 2017, when the virus from a fetus with microcephaly in Thailand was sequenced, it did not have S139N mutation, but still there was microcephaly in Thailand. So it is premature to say that the Zika of India is different from Zika of Brazil, and that's why only Zika of Brazil would cause microcephaly, not of India, because that's how actually author has contested its point, that where the microcephaly was found in Thailand, it did not have S139N mutation. So the author further has cited many incidents and outbreaks in different viruses causing microcephaly, but the issue got highlighted in Brazil outbreak only. So that's why it is cautioning that India should be cautious, and it should map all those pregnant women who actually had suffered with Zika virus. Author highlights that even conflicting reports are available on dengue causing damage to placenta. So that does not mean that we should not be studying placenta. One study says that it has caused damage to the placenta. Other study says that it has put no impact. That means we are still conclusive, and we should do more research. So that methodology should also be taken in Zika virus study. Given this conflicting evidence, scientists are very far from understanding what makes Zika a deadly to fetus. This means that any data on how the pregnancies of Zika infected women pan out in India can be enlightening, and that's why we should do the research. Careful studies must be carried out to see if there is increased prevalence of microcephaly and to understand the risk factor. Already the torch, that is toxoplasmosis, other rubella and cytomegalovirus and herpes infections are known to cause fetal anomaly. In case if you know that if a woman get pregnant, they are supposed to go through this torch or the rubella test, including microcephaly among newborns. Wherever women are screened for torch, they must also be screened for Zika. That's what the author is suggesting. In case you remember the past news, ICMR has rubbished the report, and in fact has said that the Zika virus of India is a local one, and probably people from Rajasthan and MP in particular and India in general have developed immune with this Zika, and the Zika of Brazil is different, that caused microcephaly, that is the anomaly in fetus. So Indian Zika is not dangerous, and probably it is there for tens of years or maybe more than 50 years old, and that's what this author is cautioning, that this is a very dangerous conclusion. Rather, since this year there has not been any Zika outbreak, India should do extensive research, collect data and analyze properly. Now, what are the suggestions and warning? It is also important to remember that Zika risk does not end after the baby is born healthy. The experience of Latin America shows that even healthy newborns can go on to develop symptoms later. The other important bit of actionable information that health authorities can and should gather concern population immunity. To study immunity, authorities must conduct seroprevalence survey. This is quite a tough one, but still he has suggested that seroprevalence survey should be conducted, in which they screen people in several states for antibodies to Zika. This is important for your pre also, you should know, and for your mains also. Many Indians could well have such antibodies, which means they are protected to some extent, but many might not be having. Seroprevalence survey are needed to identify pocket of low immunity in India, and then we can have a targeted approach. Health authorities can then focus their effort on these regions because they would be most vulnerable to the future outbreak. Although ELISA test can throw false positive in this case of in the cases of dengue, but the good news is that researchers are working to develop alternative tests that are specific to Zika alone. So it's saying that ELISA can be used, but the problem is that even in the case of dengue, it can give a false positive that it is a case of Zika. But then there are other tests available now also, and one multinational team, including Swiss firm Hambabs Biomed, has developed an ELISA test that is able to distinguish Zika from dengue. So India should try to source it and conduct a survey, and this is the right time for it. It's a very good suggestion. Now the next article, vexatious question of MasoodAzhar. The author says India can take up its fight against terrorism at United Nations Security Council in various ways. And what is the way that he has suggested? The UN Security Council adopted a statement on February 21 condemning the Pulwama terrorist attack of February 14, for which the Jaish-e-Mohammed took responsibility. India is applauding this development, and it should be, but then a lot of diplomatic effort had gone into achieving this result. But this statement should be looked at with proper perspective, and then we'll be able to understand what all can be done afterward. But we need to understand what is available to us. This is not true. The council made a presidential statement. It may be worthwhile to understand the nuances of action the council takes in a given situation. So India has been quite jubilant about this and as is applauding, but we must understand what is the meaning of this this statement. So the first is, and the least impactful one, is the council can take it to the authorities, the current month's president, to speak to media representative about the proceeding of the council. There is no official record to this remark. The first is that current month's president talk about this incident, but since there is no record to it, it is not that impactful, and this is the least impactful. Then the second one is when the council adopts a presidential statement. What India has got, a lot of negotiations are undertaken in a small room reserved for informal consultation next to the council chamber, where the only member of the council are present. Of necessity, it has to be a consensus. Even if one member has a strong objection to the text, the statement cannot be approved. So naturally India has achieved quite a lot. The draft of the text could be prepared either by the president or by one of the members. For most part, that member is the representative of one of the permanent member. So only permanent member can draft the text. The statement could be issued either in the name of the council or in the name of the member of the Security Council. The former is generally regarded as carrying more weight than the latter, because if it is in the name of the member council, then it would be like other members are not against it, but maybe not in favor of that text. But if it is in the name of the council, that means everybody is supporting it. So the text that is issued in favor of India is in the name of the council. The third level of the resolution, which is the most authentic voice of the council, carrying maximum weight. Again, the resolution can be under chapter 6 or chapter 7 of the charter. Resolution adopted under chapter 7 are enforceable, unlike those of chapter 6. So resolution regarding Kashmir are under 6. Is it worth carrying this statement? That's what author is saying. That many people would say that who cares for this statement, because maximum number of statements are issued against Israel. But does Israel care? But Israel does care. That's what the author is saying. Some analysts dismiss the statement and resolution of the council as of no consequences. But in practice, the countries against which the resolution of the statement is aimed cares a lot about the text of the resolution, because countries care about their image in the international community. For example, Israel, which has the most number of resolutions against it, still lobbies hard to tone down the text. February 21 statement was in the name of the member of the council. It is not that it is not worth much. It is just that it is a notch below a statement that is issued in the name of the council. Oh, sorry, I was wrong. It was in the name of a member of the council. I said that it was a name of the it was in the name of the council. It was in the name of the member of a council. So maybe one member of the council has issued. Had it been in the name of the council, it would have been having more impact. Statement in the name of the member might also suggest that not all of them were fully on board with the entire text, but still they did not oppose. A statement in the name of the council would suggest that all 15 members are in agreement with the text. That's what I told you earlier. The fact that China went along with the statement does not signify much of a shift in its position, since council had already declared Jaish-e-Mohammed as a terrorist organization. So again, the name of Maulana MasoodAzhar was not there in the text. So China did not object because earlier council has already termed Jaish-e-Mohammed as a terrorist organization. Or since name of Jaish-e-Mohammed was not there, so China did not object. But that does not mean that China has shifted its stance and is with India. That India must understand. In 2016, India moved a sanction committee to include Azhar's name with the support of 3 members, permanent members, that is US, UK and France. Again in 2017, India took a similar initiative supported by same countries. On both occasions, Russia first did not actively support the proposal because India is not buying arms from Russia. That's one. Though it went along with it, China voted it out both the time. And that's why we have not been able to get MasoodAzhar declared as a terrorist. But then author is saying that this is not the only thing that India can do. India can do much more than that. And what is saying is detailed here. So what is the table for India? If India could get MasoodAzhar declared as a terrorist, then all funds would be blocked for Azhar. He will not be able to move to other countries, but this will not help much. India should focus on larger picture of getting Pakistan exposed. For this, India has 2 platforms available right now. First is India's relation with West Asia has improved in past 5 years. India is invited at Organization of Islamic Cooperation, that is OIC, as a guest of honor. The past record of the OIC with respect to India is most objectionable. In 2017, the OIC adopted a resolution condemning the intensified Indian barbarities since July 2016 after the extrajudicial killing of Burhan Wani against unarmed and innocent civilian in Indian occupied Kashmir. That's what they term it. And denouncing India for refusing the independent permanent human rights commission of the OIC access to India occupied Kashmir. This time India should be able to prevent it because India is invited guest. Then Pakistan's all-weather friend China may take initiative to raise the issue of India's hostility on the behalf of its protege, that is Pakistan. Now, according to the council rule, if a member of the council asks for a meeting, the meeting has to be called. India must have spoken to US and other about this possibility. If the council does meet, it would give India an opportunity to expose Pakistan's true face. It will no doubt screen footage, photos of brutalities, buttress its case in the council. And these are the 2 important avenues currently available with India, and India should not lose this opportunity. Now the next article, a patchwork approach to GST problem. What is the contention of the author? Transparency and simplicity in the tax regime are casualties of the GST Council's recent decision, and these are the 2 pillars on which GST was brought: transparency and simplicity. And the author is saying that GST Council's recent meeting and decisions have actually eroded these 2 pillars. How? It has the best intention, but the goods and services tax, that is GST Council, is nevertheless systematically eroding the strongest feature of the new tax regime, that is simplicity and transparency. How? When GST was formulated, Chief Economic Advisor Arvind Subramaniam had suggested just 3 rates, but government changed it to 8 now. So we have got more complex system. Now, to be clear, the number of tax slab does not affect the concept of one nation, one tax. I mean, this is what critics would say, that how does it matter whether it's a 3 tax system or a 8 tax system? Still, it is one nation, one tax. That's what GST was envisaged as. As a single product is still taxed at the same rate across the country, but specifying 8 different GST rate is a blow to the tax simplicity, which the GST was to provide. Now, that said, GST Council has not spared the concept of one nation, one tax also. To take an example, let's talk about Kerala. For rehabilitation of Kerala, 1% additional tax is imposed in Kerala. So now Kerala has a different tax regime for next 2 years. So the whole country would be charging one thing and Kerala would be charging 1% extra. It is not too hard to imagine a situation where states would start clamoring for a cyclone relief cess, drought relief cess, flood relief cess, etc. So we would have we would never be able to have one nation, one tax. Rather, one nation, multiple tax. Now, constant tinkering is bringing opacity. That's what the author is saying. Transparency is the other casualty of GST Council's need to provide temporary fixes to problems. So, second feature that was there of GST is transparency. Now that is also getting hampered. How? Sunday's decision to remove input tax credit provision from the real estate sector will likely to go a long way in increasing opacity in already murky sector, that is the real estate sector. The weak argument that is given is that the real estate sector was not reducing prices in line with the boost offered. So this has happened before in the case of restaurant also. The third sector which has been given this input tax credit exemption is the sector which is producing sanitary napkins. Now, what is this input tax system, credit system? The input tax credit system was designed to create a seamless chain of entire supply chain process. I mean, like value-added tax system. Normally, a company can claim a credit for a tax it has paid on its input. Under a fully functional GST system, the government can verify the amount of credit to be paid to the company by matching its invoice with those provided by the vendor. Such a system encourages honesty and transparency. This is the third time the council has removed this vital provision, and its reason is doing is so weak. So rather than relying on the body it has created to handle such issue, that is the National Anti-Profiteering Authority, you should remember this, the council instead chose to weaken the entire tax system. This wouldn't have been too much of a problem if the real estate sector was as small as restaurant industry, or even in fact sanitary pads industry, the third industry where there is no input tax credit. But the real estate industry is estimated to be at rupees 40,000 crore in size. Not to forget that the fact that the cement, a huge input to the real estate sector, is taxed at a higher rate of 28% and will now not be offset by credit, and that this particular decision would actually hamper the cement industry because they would not be able to get the credits. So what the author sums up with, in both cases, disaster relief and the anti-profiteering, the GST Council has chosen to ignore established institutions designed for those very purpose in favor of a patchwork approach that is likely to cause more problem than it would solve. So that's all we have for today. Thank you very much.